Since we interview 1,000 people a night, that's over 350,000 people a year, we are able to look at our aggregated data for an entire year at the MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area, for some indicators and give a view of which cities in the United States are highest and lowest on some very fascinating social, political, and economic indicators. What I'm interested in talking about right now is religiosity. Now, we measure religiosity by a combination of two variables: how often do you attend religious services, and how important is religion to you in your daily life. And then we divide everybody up into three groups. You could have high religiosity, medium, and low. And let's look now at the rank order of some big cities around the country, relatively big cities, on religiosity. Number one, Provo, Utah. As you see in front of you, Utah is one of the most religious states in the country. That's because it has a high proportion, above 50%, but below 60% of Mormons, and Mormons are the single most religious group in America. So this is not surprising. And look at the raw numbers there. 77% of everybody we interviewed, about 800 people in Provo and surrounding areas in Utah, we classified as highly religious, and only 13% did we classify as not at all religious, low on the religiosity scale. So that's an amazingly high number. Now, the other cities that are in the top 10 are for the most part in the south, with one more city in Utah. You see what's second there: Montgomery, Alabama, then Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, and so forth down the line. We do have Ogden, Utah, in the list. Another Utah city is one of the top 10 most religious MSAs or cities in the country. Now, you're probably asking, where's Salt Lake City? Well, you know, Salt Lake City is the biggest city in Utah and has a proportionally high number of non-Mormons, and it actually falls down the list. Salt Lake City itself is about number 42 on our list. Now, again, it's above average, but 47% of residents of Salt Lake City we classify as very religious, and compare that to the 77% up in Provo. So even within Utah, there are some significant differences in religiosity. Now let's go to the bottom of the list. We've talked before about the fact that New England and the northwest part of the country are the least religious parts of the United States. Vermont, the single least religious state in the country. So perhaps it's not surprising to find that the single least religious MSA that we looked at is up in Vermont. It's in fact Burlington, Vermont. It's followed by Boulder, Colorado, a college town. And then if you see the list in front of you, another set of cities that are in New England, and also cities that are out in California. These particular cities in California, not at all religious. You don't find any MSAs or cities in the South down in this bottom list. In fact, I went looking of those we measured, what was the least religious city in the South, and it was Charlottesville, Virginia. But it's pretty far from the bottom of the list, so we just don't find many southern cities that are low on the list. And Charlottesville is unusual. It is, of course, the home of Thomas Jefferson, but also the home of the University of Virginia. And we know that younger people, which would be college students, are the least religious age group in America, so that may explain why Charlottesville is low on the list. Bottom line here, however, most religious city in the country, Provo, Utah. Least religious, Burlington, Vermont. I'm Dr. Frank Newport, Gallup Editor-in-Chief.